Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We're going to start reading part 7 in our book, Power of the Magdalene. And of course, this is written by Stuart Wilson and Joanna Prentis. And in part 7, we're going to be reading about the new children, which Ilariel specifically has alluded to and mentioned several times throughout this book so far. So these are the new children that are being born into the world that will have a higher capacity of spirituality. They will have a different kind of consciousness. Now, keep in mind, this book was written in 2008. So I do believe that many of these children have been born and are continuing to be born today. So this title, or this chapter, chapter 23, is quite a small, short chapter, but chapter 24 is one of our longer ones. So I'm going to read just the first chapter on its own. It's going to be a rather short video, and then we will focus on the following chapter, which will be a longer video. And we start out with Anthem of the New Children, which was written by Stuart Wilson. I think it's kind of like a poem. We are the builders of the dawn, the seekers of the light, the gentle walkers of the earth, bringing the coming age to birth, out of the fading night. We are the singers of the stars, the dancers of the day, the sowers of a wiser seed, responding to this planet's need to find a better way. All right, chapter 23, the bigger picture, and we are speaking with Ilariel once again, and he starts out. To transcend your limitations and see the bigger picture, you need to have a balanced consciousness, one which has no major blocks or distortions. Any block or limitation diminishes one's ability to see the bigger picture. For example, thinking in terms of rigid categories like self-contained boxes takes you away from a holistic perception of things. You would only distort your thinking by imagining an entirely separate Essene brotherhood, a separate Qatar movement, and so on. These categories merge into one another in a dynamic way, so that there is a single continuum of life projected through the incarnation process over long periods of time. Thus, the same souls who experienced life in the Essene communities moved on to become Gnostics, Qatars, and Franciscans. Many of these are back in incarnation as light workers, and some of them are now reappearing as the new children. The new children come from a variety of sources, and we'll explore those sources later on. But for the moment, just focus on the idea that some of these children will be coming from the Essene, Gnostic, Qatar, Franciscan stream of experience. Comment by Stuart. This is a completely fresh way of looking at the new children, those children with special gifts and talents who are now being born in increasing numbers. Seeing at least a part of this group as the culmination of a whole cycle of evolutionary experience helps us to integrate the new children into the broad sweep of spiritual evolution. The session continues, and this is just Ilariel speaking. Ilariel. Perceptions and values may change as you move through historical periods, but the focus of the soul remains the same. Human beings tend to reincarnate in soul groups. There is an Essene, a Buddhist, a Muslim, and a humanist soul group, amongst many other groupings. Almost sounds like the beginning of a joke, a rabbi and a priest are in a bar. Often, there is one central teacher who inspires the entire soul group. And for the Essenes, this is Jeshua ben Joseph. Members of the soul group try, when in conference with their angelic advisors in the interlife, remember that's the time between your last incarnation and your next incarnation is the interlife, to arrange to incarnate at the same time as their teacher, or one of his leading pupils, like John, who became Francis of Assisi, so that not only can they learn from these spiritual teachers, but they can also help and support them in their work. So, in this way, each soul group becomes not only an intense community projected through time, but also a dedicated and closely integrated team. And the more you can visualize these soul groups moving through time, changing in presentation but retaining their essence, the more you can escape from the narrowness of rigid categories. But thinking in terms of rigid categories is only one form of limitation. And even if you were entirely free from the more general cultural limitations which you share with your peer group, your consciousness could still be blocked and distorted in those areas where issues within the psyche remain to be resolved. It is very difficult for a human being to see, acknowledge, and understand a truth that relates to a wound in the psyche, some area of unfinished business where healing has yet to take place. When the healing does occur, insight into the truth linked to that area is restored, and you are able to see things there with a new clarity. Limitations in the psyche block perception of the truth, and the healing of those limitations restores insight and understanding to the consciousness. Hence, the more limitations you have removed from your psyche, the more clearly you can see things as they really are, enabling you to take in the bigger picture, the broad sweep of spiritual development and evolution. Excuse me. And then we have a closing comment by Joanna. So many of the old Essenes have chosen in this life to incarnate into very difficult childhoods so that they can understand the kind of problems and blockages that many people experience. Many have become healers and work in one of the caring professions. These old souls have taken on these life challenges for their soul growth. Okay, and I told you that chapter 23 was pretty short, but adding it to chapter 24 would just be a long video because this is one of our longest chapters, and it makes sense because we are going to be reading a great deal about the new children that are being born into this world. And I have seen many people posting videos of their specifically COVID babies conceived or born during the lockdown, during the shutdowns of everything, during the height of COVID. These babies are talking early, walking early, seeming to understand things that they normally, most babies previously would never. We're seeing a lot of babies being born with autism. We're seeing a lot of babies being born that may have Down syndrome, an uptick. And yes, I realize there are a lot of controversial topics around that, like taking certain medications when you're pregnant, vaccinations when you're pregnant, or vaccinating afterwards. Is it genetic? Is it things that we did to our body while pregnant, things that we put in their bodies after they were born? But I do believe that regardless of how it happens, on a soul level, it was still a choice. As hard as that may be to understand and take in when you realize that you're raising a child that may have some disabilities. I don't like to call them that. We set them up for disability because of the way that our world operates. It's very difficult for them to live in. But I don't think it's a disability. I think that these children are special and gifted and more pure than any of us could ever hope to be. I mean, they're just so loving and just a different kind of a soul. And that's a beautiful, wonderful way to look at a child like that. So I'll stop right there, and in the next video we're going to read chapter 24, and I believe this is also, so we're beginning part 7. We just read the first chapter in part 7, and in the next chapter 24 we will read the new children. And in this, again, we're going to be talking to Ilariel, and he's going to break down many different types. There's the indigo children, the super psychic children, crystal children, rainbow children. And I think those are the main categories that we are focusing on in chapter 24. So thank you all for joining me for this very short chapter. I love you all so much, and I will see you for our next chapter very soon. Bye-bye. Oh, and I love you all very much, and take care of yourselves and those around you. Until next time. Bye-bye.